Welcome to My Career Journey, a podcast that highlights different career paths, tackles tough topics, and shares actionable tips and insights. I'm Emily.
And I'm Allegra. We're your hosts and both career switchers. In each episode, we'll talk about our experiences, learn from others, and help you find happiness and success in your career journey. Let's get into it.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our first episode. I'm one of your hosts, Emily.
And I'm Allegra. We are going to be talking today about our own career journeys, starting with our lives as professional musicians. Spoiler alert, we were both professional musicians. As you may know, with My Career Journey, we talk about real stories and actionable insights. We wanted to kick it off with our real stories. In later episodes, we'll dive more into journeys of special guests and deep dives into topics, but this is going to let you get to know us better. And we're doing it in two parts because we wanted to give the space to get a little deep, a little vulnerable. Thank you for being here with us as we share this. Yep. And we're going to talk about our lives before we switched. Emily, why don't you kick it off? You had to give like a high level who you are before we get into the details. Who are you?
So as I said before, my name is Emily, and I was a professional violinist when I started my career. And then I ended up making the switch during the pandemic. So I now work in tech as a content and conversation designer. And I'll get into what those are in part 2. But that's just high level where I started and where I am now.
And you live in Sweden.
Yes. I am originally from New Jersey. You might not be able to tell from.
Love that.
Yes, I'm from the US. I am not Swedish. But my partner got a job in Sweden, which is what prompted the move. And I've been here for about 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if you had a New Jersey Swedish accent?
I
mean, I don't even know what that would sound like. I'm not going to try and do it. Later. We'll do that later, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Emily. I'm Allegra. I live in Minneapolis, and I also used to be a professional musician. I was a professional cellist. I had what I would call a portfolio career. I started a nonprofit. I taught at 3 different institutions across Chicago. And I worked as a full-time director in higher education for a Center for Arts Leadership, which I got to build kind of from the ground up. So had a lot of different things that I was doing in the performing arts. And then also during the pandemic, I switched careers and now I am a change management consultant. I do learning and development, strategy and implementations, change related work, process optimization. How many other consulting words can I put in there? And that's been my career for the last 4 years, which I'm really grateful for. So, okay, we talked about we're both musicians. I want to hear, like, how did you start? When did you start?
So I started at age 4, which is
early.
kind of, I know it's for violin. I think that's at least where I grew up. A lot of people started very young.
Yeah.
So I know someone that started at the age of 2, which is like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Well, it's like with the Suzuki training, it's every child can, and it's mimicking like when you learn your spoken language, you're learning your musical language, like right out the womb. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my parents took me to a concert where there was a violin soloist, and I was like, I want to do that. So they got me a violin, got me started on lessons, and here we are.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How about you?
I didn't start quite that early. I mean, I started piano around 5 or 6. My mom had loved playing piano growing up, but then most of my growing years were in Texas, which has a really good public school system for music. And so they did kind of like a road show of the middle school orchestra that came around to, the elementary schools, like, hey, you should do orchestra when you get to middle school, because it didn't start till 6th grade. And they had a petting zoo where you got to try all the different instruments. And my mom was like, dear goodness, please not bass, please not harp, like, but lucky for her, I really loved the cello. It just spoke to me immediately. I was like, heck yes, I want to do this. And similar, it was like I heard an orchestra concert and I was like, that's so cool. I could do that. And then the rest is kind of history. I had to prove that I was actually going to practice before I got private lessons.
Yeah.
And then I did. And then thank goodness for my parents taking me around to all the things, right? But
Oh, I know. Oh, parents do so much to support music, and
yeah,
it's, yeah, very grateful.
truly. And so
But
you had kind of like an intense high school. Well, you did Juilliard Pre-College. What was that like?
yes, that was very intense program for people up to college age, pretty much. So what you do is you audition to get in. It's very competitive, um, and once you're in, it's a Saturday program. So every Saturday, you're doing a bunch of classes, lessons, chamber music, orchestra, music theory, ear training, and any other specialty classes, electives. So it's all Saturday, and I was lucky. I lived in New Jersey, so I was able. It's in New York, so I was able to go pretty quickly. It wasn't too much of a commute, but people travel all over. People come from other countries to go there, and it's yeah.
Just for Saturday?
They don't like they move to the States to
Oh,
be
okay.
a part of the program. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Which is, I mean,
what?
that's yeah, still a lot.
Still a lot. Yeah,
But
absolutely. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. So I was very lucky to have that training and that background, I think, to set me up for later years. And I think that allowed me to explore other career or other options when it came to schools, because I had kind of that, I had seen kind of what that would look like if I did that completely, like went to a conservatory just for music. So I felt like I had the breathing room to kind of uh, go to a college where there were more options, more classes I could, take advantage of, and just get kind of a more well-rounded education.
Yep. That was a big focus for my parents. I didn't have that insight of what was conservatory going to look like, but my
Mhm.
parents didn't want me to be limited because, it was
Right.
something that I had focused so much on academics. And I mean, it's similar. I didn't have a pre-college situation. But I had youth orchestras on Saturday, right? Where
Right.
when I moved to Atlanta, I would take the train in. I'm so grateful I had public transit experiences early because
Mhm.
then, when I moved to places
Yeah.
like Chicago, I was like, heck yes, to do, public
Right.
transit. So yeah, with my cello, I would, take Marta into downtown Atlanta and do the
Is that
youth
the name of your
orchestra.
cello?
No, Marta's the name of it's Metro Atlantic.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait.
No, my cello's name is Marcello, but that's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah, but that conservatory environment just seemed like too risky or something, right? Or too
Mm,
focused. And so, yeah, ended up only applying to schools that had strong academics and strong music programs. But I
right.
wish I had had some of that music theory because I had to do some like music theory placement tests as part of auditions. Oh, one of
Those are
them
the worst.
they had to, like, send it back and have me do it again because
Oh my
I
gosh,
did such a
really?
good audition, and then I didn't know music
Oh, no.
theory. I was like, "Oh, crap. I don't know what, like, a diminished triad is. How am I supposed to know this?" I'm like, "But I can tell you
Yeah.
AP chemistry stuff. Cool."
Uh-huh. The
But, yeah,
important stuff.
the important I was thinking about chemical engineering
Yeah.
and cello performance. For some reason,
Oh,
I applied to
wow.
colleges thinking I would do a double major. That didn't end
Mhm.
up happening. I ended up at IU, India University, which was awesome. And then we both did master's programs too. We kept going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually also wanted to do film actually over music, just
Yeah.
because it was like an interest of mine, but I ended up applying for music because I realized I couldn't get in for film. I had no experience. I couldn't, send in like a reel or anything, or uh, so I looked into music programs, but I did end up getting a film studies minor. I went to Chapman University in California, and they had a really, really awesome film program. So I was lucky to be able to be exposed to that and get to do that.
Nice. And actually, as I'm thinking about it, some people listening might not know, like, you actually have to audition to get into these schools, right?
Yeah.
Like, you
Mhm.
have to Like when I to get into Indiana University, I had to fly up to Indiana, play music for the professors at a live audition. And then
Mhm.
basically, I don't know how it was at Chapman, but you had to choose a professor that you wanted to rank in terms of getting into their studio. And if none of the people you ranked wanted you in their studio, you might just not get in, no matter what your grades are, no
Chapman,
matter what,
yeah, Chapman was so small. There was only one violin professor. So it was a little bit different in that sense. And I
Yeah.
wanted a smaller school because I wanted more individualized attention and I wanted kind of a smaller environment where I felt like I could thrive a little bit better than
Yeah.
like a big school where, yeah, I might be not as, uh, yeah, I might not stand out as much.
They're about probably Chapman and Indiana are probably about two most opposite schools you could have.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like the largest program in the country.
Right.
Size wise, it's huge. But I
Yeah.
see, and I wanted that because I had been so
Right.
focused on the academics. It was like, tell me what this industry is like, show me all the
Mhm.
different ways that people can live and work. Um,
Right.
and they throw you in. I remember as like a sophomore, the concerto competition, you were performing against people who were in like their 30s or late 20s and already had
Mhm.
careers. And that was just like, oh
Wow.
wow, this is what this industry is like.
Right, right. So, yeah, I think you get more of a taste of what it's like in the real world with that kind of mix of people and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to masters too. So I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
my master's at Rice University, and I ended up doing violin performance at Rice as well.
I wanted to get into Rice so bad. I
Oh,
auditioned twice and I wanted to study with Desmond Hobig so bad that it was like I cared too much and I just bombed every audition.
oh
I
no.
was too
Oh,
nervous. It's like you want it too bad. That was me at
yeah.
Rice. That was me at Rice.
Auditions are so hard. It's real. They're the worst. You just
Oh.
have like people staring at you. You only have a certain amount of time to like impress people, and it's just so nerve-wracking. And yeah, they've definitely taught me a lot about performance, and that's translated over even to tech with just, I don't know, presenting in a meeting or um, doing speaking events at conferences and stuff. But it's still doesn't take away the nervousness.
No, no, it doesn't. Yeah. And so did you stay and work in Houston after Rice?
No, so
Okay.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Houston. So
Ooh.
I decided I wanted to get out, and I ended up moving back to the New York area. So I started just freelancing when I got there, and I ended up freelancing there for a couple years. And then yeah, moved to Baltimore to be with my partner, and uh, yeah, then the pandemic happened, and then then the career shift.
Yeah.
So it was,
Goodness.
yeah. How about you? What about masters for you?
So well, at IU, I did just cello performance, but then halfway through, I kind of had like this crisis of identity when I went to the admissions department. I was like, okay, so where do people go after they graduate?
Mhm.
And they were able to tell me like, oh, this program and this program, but they weren't able to tell me like job and employment statistics about how many people actually get jobs after leaving the college. And I thought,
Right.
okay, this is really scary. They're not actually tracking this as a measure of success that I was aware of. So I went to the business school and I got a minor there. So I think already I was thinking about things a little bit differently, but I was still focused on orchestra, right? So
Okay.
I looked at programs that had some of the best orchestral cellists in the nation. So I looked at New York, Cleveland, Houston, and Chicago.
Mhm.
And the other thing, I wanted to be in a place where I would want to live and work for a few years after. And
Right.
so I loved Chicago like immediately. I was like, this
Mhm.
is such a cool city.
It is.
I really gelled with the professor, who's the principal cellist of Chicago Symphony. Shout out to John Sharp, an incredible individual, incredible cellist. And so I ended up at Chicago College of Performing Arts, which is a small conservatory. Well, it's not really a conservatory; it's within a Roosevelt University. But and then I ended up living and working there for 12 years
Wow.
after my master's. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, loved it.
Yeah. That's one thing I wish I had done differently with grad school. I loved Rice. It was amazing. My teacher was amazing.
Yeah.
The people I met were amazing, but I don't think I was thinking long term in terms of like building my network, building job secure, or not job security, but just building up my gigging, especially as a freelancer. Um, so yeah, I felt like when I got to New York, I had to start from scratch and kind of rebuild everything. And it was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What kind of stuff did you do in Chicago?
Well, let's see. I remember I told you I had that kind of like crisis of like, where are people going? Where are they ending up? I continued to have a little bit of that like anxiety through my master's.
Yeah.
So I started to think about like that kind of portfolio and not relying so much on just performance.
Mm-hmm.
I started blogging. So I wrote for a
Oh,
class. Yeah, I wrote for a blog
wow.
in chicagoclassicalmusic.org. It's not in effect today, but I got like $25 a post. I got to interview people. I got to chat with people.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
it was. I did Suzuki certification, so I was able to start my own private studio, and I had students ranging from like middle school through a woman who was in her 70s, which was incredible.
Mm, yeah.
And then did the kind of local gigs. Chicago they have just incredible big ensembles, but a lot of the ensembles that you can gig with orchestra wise are more in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of what I did was more chamber music, and then I
Oh,
ended up starting a nonprofit, which transitioned me more into administration. But that's
right.
maybe a bigger
Oh, wow.
story. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I did some teaching too, and my first couple years, but I was mostly focused on performing. Performing was kind of where I wanted to be.
yeah.
So I tried to get to a point where I could do just performance, and I was able to get there after like 3 years or so, which was really, really exciting. And not that I don't like teaching.
Yeah.
I think just the environment that I had my own studio, and I was doing a mix of like um, after school programs too.
Yeah.
But I was teaching a lot of beginners, and I feel like you have to really be dedicated to that and really be there. And I was traveling a bunch for gigs, and um, I just wasn't set up, and it didn't excite me as much as I wish it could have.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of that's kind of why I wanted to focus more on performing. And but yeah, in terms of the other gigs I had, I did kind of a mix of orchestra and solo gigs, and then just random other gigs around New York. Like I did a play, I did musicals, I did some other TV gigs, and those were really fun. And yeah, recording gigs. So just a mix of stuff, which was really cool.
I mean, there's nothing like I think freelancing is one of the most powerful things to set you up for project management, even just in
Yes.
mindset, right?
Oh
Like
my gosh.
the
The admin.
admin
And
just but the teaching in itself and having like one student who's working on this, if I had like 30 students a week, right, and you're context switching to be like, here's the rep for this one, and you're having a project plan for each student and
yeah, it's
checking in, and
mhm.
then thinking about, okay, on Wednesdays, I have to rent the car to go up to Kenosha, Wisconsin, because I'm adjunct faculty there and I'll be there all day. And here's when I can piece in all these other things. And the like
Right.
Waldorf schools on the Southwest side. But it's like the transportation, the project plan, the like all the stuff that you have to do to be ready. Like, and then you have gigs on the weekend. It's just musicians do so much and
Yeah,
are
it's all
really versatile.
yes. And also coordinating like even housing and
Yeah.
stay if you need yeah, sometimes I was going between like 3 states in one day,
Yes.
just figuring out
Oh,
logistics of that and like
something I don't
yeah.
miss is the tax forms too. When
Yes.
you
Oh
have
my god, there was one year I think I had 7
yeah,
state taxes that I need to fill out. And it was a mess. Oh my goodness.
I know. Me too. Me too. It was kind of fun because I think with some of the housing stuff, like I did Sarasota Opera in Florida for a few years. And first of all, I got to escape the Chicago winters and be in Florida with like some of my best friends playing incredible music. It was awesome. But it was always like, okay, how are we going to find housing and who are you going to find housing to? And it was always like this big to do. We ended up having like a peacock infested house one of the years.
Oh my, peacock?
Yeah, peacocks.
Oh,
Florida's a crazy place.
Yeah. Wow, that's.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. In the corporate world, you don't really have to do a lot of that stuff on your own. A lot of times, it's set up for you.
Usually taken care. Yeah, it's taken care of, and that's one of the biggest things. Switching to tech, at least, that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, like. We get snacks, like free snacks.
It's a little thing.
Coffee. I know, seriously. And bigger things like healthcare and all of that.
And that's another thing I don't miss is having to like look at the open market every year.
Yes. Oh, me too. Me too. And I ended up having to pay more because I need to see a specialty doctor. So like I had to be on a specific plan to be able to make it affordable. And it was just not, as a freelancer, it was tough.
Right.
Especially with those. And yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we both spent probably a decade or so as professionals in the performing arts. I wonder if you think about pros and cons of working in that industry. What do you think?
Ooh, okay. Might get into some hot takes here.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, I'll start with the pros. So I loved being able to travel. I loved that it's such a global field. So I was meeting people from all over the place. And I feel like whenever I travel, I know someone wherever I'm going, which is really cool. And that's one of the things that actually made moving to Sweden easier, is because I already knew a couple people around the area from music, and it's just, it's great. And I love being able to connect with people with such varied backgrounds and being able to learn from different cultures.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. I remember like it was kind of like the smoking section outside of one of the doors of the IU buildings, but it was like all the different languages you were hearing. I was just like, this is awesome. So cool. Always.
Right?
Yeah. And you can always like, it's like you have a friend in every place. You're like, hey,
exactly.
I'm in town. You want to get coffee? Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah. And I loved the variety of gigs I had, at least in New York, and being able to travel all over the US for different things. And those were probably the biggest ones for now. Do you have any others?
For pros, keep it positive. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Totally agree about the travel. I love that. I got to go to like Mazatlan, Mexico, like all these different places. And I mean, traveling with a cello is an entirely different episode.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But yeah, that's true. Like research trips, I think also a lot of music. I mean, and there are cons about this, but it's also pretty academic. People go on to do masters and doctorates. They're learners and problem solvers with how they approach things. And I think just that vibe, people are like smart, passionate, creative, quirky, collaborative.
Yes. Yeah. The people really make it. It's it's just, people are so interesting.
Yes. And like passionate about what they do. I like chamber music parties where you just like say, hey, we're going to read this sheet music together on a Saturday night and just hang out and create and build your own performances where you get to try different things out. And those weren't the best paying gigs, but like, what was it? Pay, passion, people, project. Yeah. Right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as long as you had 3 of the P's, you're like green light on that gig. And just sharing those kind of experiences with your friends is unbeatable. It's the best.
Oh, and for sure.
I also have to say, like, whenever people are like, oh, what do you do? Right? We love that question. Slight sarcasm. But if you're like, oh, I'm a professional cellist, immediate conversation starter. Right?
Right.
It's so cool. And you get to talk about what you do and how you do it. And there's sometimes they're like, well, how do you make your money? And you're like, okay,
Well, that's
that's a
another
different
conversation.
that's another conversation. But yeah, that was a little more fun to talk about than like consultant. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Well,
but
it makes you stand out as a person, and
yes,
yeah. Do you
yeah.
have any favorite gigs that you did?
Favorite gigs? Ooh,
Mhm.
yes. Okay. Um, I'll share like a kind of a silly one was like the Kygo. When Kygo came to United Center, I'd never heard of Kygo before. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I hear Kygo everywhere.
Oh, that's
But
so cool.
it was sold out United Center. They had all the bracelets, there were pyrotechnics. It was so
Oh my
fun. And like whenever those gigs come in, they hire these contractors and you're only playing a few songs. So it's not actually that demanding, but then your face is on a
god. Right.
jumbotron. Um,
Exactly. So
which is
cool.
bonkers. And then I loved playing with Corky Siegel. He's like a Chicago blues legend, and he did this
Oh,
such like cool combination of like Indian tabla, drum set, jazz harmonica, like or blues, piano, and then string quartet. And it was just the
mhm.
coolest gigs. I just took so many different places across the US and Mexico. I loved it.
That's awesome.
How about you?
Ooh, I I think most some of the most fun gigs that I did were TV gigs. So I got to be on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and I also was on the last episode of Mozart in the Jungle, which is an Amazon TV show, and that was so cool.
We've got a TV star here, people.
No, no, but I those kinds of things are, while they may not be the most musically fulfilling, they do give me street cred. So
Yeah. Yeah.
those are a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, they're fun. Uh, okay, so
Now,
obviously we have a little bit of perspective on like things that we would change about the industry or didn't particularly
yes.
love. What do you got, cons?
Ooh, okay. Where do I start? I think the first thing is probably the grind. It's just like so taxing mentally, to just be in this environment. It's 24/7,
Yeah.
especially as a freelancer, because you're just my the biggest thing that I hated was just being on my phone all the time, because I was like, I need to just be checking my messages in case I miss a gig, or in case I get a message. Because if you miss a gig and someone else gets it, then you're probably not going to get it again.
Right.
So that was one of the things I really hated.
Well, I do have to say too about that grind. It's like when we're both more in like tech spaces, but like more corporate. I
Mhm.
and like management consulting has kind of a reputation, and so does tech for being long hours. But my work life balance was much better switching
Yeah.
away from the performing arts into a
Yeah.
corporate
I
job.
actually have weekends, and I
Yes,
can like have time for myself, and I can shut my brain off. And I think I need that break to kind of keep me going creatively. And um, yeah, it really makes a difference.
yep, absolutely. I think another thing that I would add is, and it's kind of why you have to grind. It's really competitive.
Yeah.
Um, and you're required to be hyper specialized, which isn't a unique thing to the performing arts industry. But I was talking to my husband about this because he's been in medicine. But it's like, yeah, but in medicine, you have checkpoints where if you don't pass boards, or if you don't get matched, or if you don't, you like, there's checkpoints from which it says you are not likely to have a successful career in this industry. Think about something else early on. In the performing arts, most colleges will just be like, yeah, we'll take your money and call you a performance major. And
Right.
the job scarcity is much more of an issue. And
Mhm.
so I think it felt limiting and prescriptive too. So
Yeah.
there's that hyper specialty because of, we talk about this a little bit, but like how success is defined. Um,
Mhm.
and the
Right, exactly.
hierarchy of that. So yeah, it's just like there's too many musicians, not enough jobs. So I'm going to be protective of everything that I have, which is
Exactly, and
damaging to how people
it
see
is.
themselves, their relationship to their peers, and how they connect with their community. It's just it's a little toxic in that way. Not for everybody, but
No,
it's a tough
it
industry.
it is, and I think, yeah, it's kind of it is very collaborative. It is, you work with so many different people, but it doesn't feel genuine.
Mm,
Sometimes when you're talking to people, it's like everyone's kind of out for themselves, even though we're in a collaborative environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think some spaces are different, but it's like,
Yeah.
if you think about an example of like an orchestra audition, you have what, like 200 cellists all playing the mostly exact same thing, waiting to be called as a number, all warming up in the same room. And it's like, the reality is one person's going to get that job. And it's just tough.
Yeah. And I think another thing that was really frustrating was that there's no guarantee that you're going to get something, even if you have a million degrees, even if you're the best player in the world. It's a lot about, it's either auditions or it's who you know, for a lot of the stuff that I was doing, at least. I
Yeah.
know that's not the same everywhere. And you can also create opportunities for yourself. You can do other things. But specifically for what I was doing as a freelancer, it was, yeah, either the mix of the two. So there was no guarantee and you were going to get anything.
Well, and I think that's the case with a lot of industries, right? Like you still have to put in the work. There's no
Of
guarantee of
course.
something,
Of
but
course.
why is music different? Because I think there's
Yeah,
a
I think
difference
it's
there.
because it's with auditions specifically, it's the way you play and you're behind a screen. There could be like 3 rounds, but the people behind don't know who you are. They don't know you have what 5-10 minutes to make an impression based on like a little bit of playing. And that doesn't always showcase your skill set. So you have to like make sure you're playing the best that you can to impress these people behind the screen. And there's just no guarantee that they're going to like your playing that day. Or you have no idea what's going on behind the screen, what they're thinking, if they're even listening to you.
Right. Yeah, that difference of, and I think the difference is like you don't get the same kind of feedback that you might in an interview for
Right.
another job.
Yeah.
And for these orchestra jobs, you're having to pay out of pocket to do all
Yes.
of these rounds of auditions, and it could be 3 rounds, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I would have to fly with my cello to take this gig, have a hotel, and it's like hundreds of dollars.
It's
Just It's
expensive
so
to audition.
expensive, and that's
And
your
same with
freelance money. Like, then that's
Mhm. Exactly, and then you have to do it around freelancing too, so, like,
right,
when I was freelancing, I was taking auditions, and that was just so stressful because I didn't have time to practice because I was traveling to all these gigs, I was
right,
playing all the
right.
time, and I didn't always, yeah, I didn't ever feel prepared when I was
Yeah,
taking an audition. I didn't feel like, "Oh, I didn't feel confident, like, "Oh, I'm gonna nail this, I'm gonna" it's like, "No, I'm just gonna do the best that I can with the time that I had."
yeah,
So
yeah,
also, I didn't ever feel like orchestra was really a good fit for me. So I think that also played into why I wasn't really playing my best or doing stuff. So
yeah.
it's another thing.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I love playing this repertoire. Being in the middle of an orchestra is like one of the most incredible feelings in the world.
Mhm.
But logically, I just couldn't reconcile paying that much money to not get feedback that would help me grow in the way that was like, I could do all
Yeah,
these different things.
and
Putting all my eggs in this one basket just doesn't feel right to me.
right, and also with summer festivals too, like,
Oh, yeah.
musicians have have these it's like internships pretty much, like, they're training festivals,
Yeah.
where you go for, like, a couple weeks or up to 2 months even, but you have to pay out of pocket for them.
Pay to
For
play.
most of them,
Yep.
and they're a lot of money, and
Yeah.
it's very prohibiting for a lot of people, um, to be able to attend those, and, um, yeah, that's definitely another downside. It's very expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I think both of us, like, we wouldn't trade our experiences for
Oh, no, not at all.
anything, but there are definitely frustrating aspects that make it hard to, like, I think 10 years for me was a good amount of time in that world to learn and to experience and then to say, okay, I've learned a lot. It's time for something else.
Yeah, yeah, and I think by the end, like, I did get some gigs that I really wanted, like, I felt like I was, getting to where I wanted to be, and but then I was like, "Is is this it?" And is this gonna be my life?
Hmm.
Piecing these gigs together, grinding, doing this, and for some people, they can do that for so many years and make it work. But for me, it was just not sustainable.
Yep. Okay,
But
so I mean, we both did a ton of things. I wonder,
Mhm.
like, my shift, I feel like was a little different than yours because it was a little bit more of a phased approach. Yours was a little more
Right.
cold turkey.
Yep.
Um, but I think something for people that aren't or don't know musicians or haven't been musicians professionally is something that's really it's an identity. It's not just a career. It is like who you are and how you identify. I'd be like, I'm Allegra, I'm a cellist, which I don't feel the same level of attachment to. I'm Allegra, I'm a consultant. I just don't. Um,
Right. Exactly.
right. Uh, but so when I shifted away from just doing performance or doing mostly performance, that was already hard because I was like, am I giving up on this? Does it mean I wasn't good enough? There was an ego thing, but all
Right.
right. It's like that was a
Yeah,
shift.
exactly. And that's yeah, it's so toxic the way we're brought up to think. Um, that if you're not a soloist, if you're not in a major orchestra, you're not successful.
Right.
And I think it takes us away from the why of why we're playing music in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to kind of bring yourself back to that. And I guess, especially when I was freelancing too, it was hard, like with all the stuff going on, trying to, just do all the gigs, make a living. And it kind of wore me down a little bit throughout the years.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There's hierarchies of success. It's tough. So
Right.
even though I was starting this nonprofit that I really believed in and was doing incredible things. And there was no doubt that this was worthwhile. It was, well, what are people going to think? I'm not performing as much. And but
Mhm.
then I let that go because I was so passionate about what we were doing.
Right.
We were bringing music to hospitals and it was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And like getting to meet these people and getting to create moments that matter with them is like, oh, so I sharing notes is the name of the nonprofit, still going strong today. Woo.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, but that kind of started to change my mindset with maybe it's not for me about the performance, which a lot of people are doing as good or better than me. There's no shortage of that, but maybe I can offer something different. So I started to think about change in administration as a way to support that and community engagement, which ultimately led me to what started out as a 10 hours a week director position
Mhm.
at my alma mater, which we soon learned was not enough, but they didn't have the funding yet. So I had to stick in this little bit,
Mhm.
but eventually grew into a full time role that then made it a lot harder for me to travel and do the gigs that I had been doing as a freelancer. So I kind of
Right.
had to shift out of performance and have that as very much like part of who I was, but I wasn't keeping it at the same level and then
Right.
shifted into administration. So in some ways that for me was like, that shift, but I didn't feel like I really closed the door until I left the performing arts as an industry. And all that time, even when I was full-time administrative director, I was still in the performing arts. So it still felt like a connection.
Right. How have you did you learn to like accept that and accept that change or that shift in identity?
I mean, honestly, I think I was still processing it when I started my job as a consultant. Um,
Mhm.
it's not linear. It's bits and pieces, and it's being able to say that even though this isn't my source of income, this is still a huge part of who I am, and it's still who I am. I'm still a cellist, even though
Right.
I'm not making my income doing that. But that was hard because of that mindset that we were talking about.
It was hard for me, and that's why it took me so long to decide to make the switch,
Mm,
honestly, because I was like, who am I if I'm not a musician?
yeah.
And was everything a waste? And am I just throwing away everything I've worked so hard to do and get to where I am? But I've realized after making the switch, looking back, I feel like now I'm just like building who I am. I'm still a musician. I was at one of my first jobs in tech. I was able to play kind of more than I had been playing as a musician. I was practicing more. I was enjoying it a lot more. So I was able to bring it in with me, and it's something. that I was able to build into my sense of identity, which is larger than music, if that makes sense. And I think I've kind of been able to shift my mindset since then to kind of understand that anything I do, it just adds to who I am as a person. And it's not, I'm not just one thing. Everything makes me who I am.
Yeah. Well, and I think also that it's so beautiful. That's the way it should be, right? I know when I was practicing, just it's hard to practice for fun when you've been trained to practice for
Oh yeah.
performance, because
Exactly.
then you have this critical ear which allows you to be, successful, but a lot of times it's not constructive in the same way that you would want it to be. So that was also kind of a retraining, but I think it's
Yeah.
applicable to beyond music, just kind of like where you see opportunity and where you see growth mindset. I don't know, do we call it that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Wait, but so you didn't actually, we didn't hear how you made the shift or when you decided to do that. I
Oh,
just
yeah,
realized.
sorry. So
I was like,
I
"Oh,
made the
wait, we need to talk about that."
switch. I made the switch during the pandemic, and I actually waited until I think the pandemic started in like what, March.
March
I made
2020.
this, March 2020. So I made the shift in starting July. So it took me a couple months to kind of understand that the pandemic was going to be a long-term thing, that that music wasn't going to come back for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really prompted me to commit to doing something else.
Were you
And I've been
in
thinking, oh, go ahead.
were you in New York or Baltimore?
No, I just moved to Baltimore.
Okay.
So yeah, it was good timing for that, because oh my gosh, being in my small room in in New York would have been a little bit much for me, I think.
Yeah.
But I was in Baltimore. And yeah, I had been thinking about switching careers for a while, because I had doubts and concerns about being a professional musician and freelancing and stuff. But I always felt like I wasn't kind of using all of the skills that I had, and the work that I was putting in wasn't really showing impact, or I wasn't really feeling like I was making an impact. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. um I wasn't doing really what I wanted to do, and when I did, I was like, is this it? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like there was something missing. So I started exploring other careers, and I I think I'll get into what I did in the next episode, but I think the pandemic was the turning point for me, and I just was like, okay, I need to find something else to do at least. And if I go back to music, I go back to music, but if not, then I have something else that I can, try out and explore.
Yeah, I think in some ways, I mean, not for everybody, but in some ways, and obviously a lot of terrible things from the pandemic, but also it gave permission to try different things in some ways, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, the pandemic was definitely like a game changer for me too, but I was working full time still through at the
Mm-hmm.
university. Um, and I think I was so burnt out. I,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just, I don't know, it kind of clicked during that time, but I had a series of burnouts. I loved starting sharing notes. I loved freelancing. I loved my students. I loved all the stuff, but it definitely was hard. Um,
Right.
from a time perspective, from an energy perspective, the work with sharing notes was also very emotional because we were
Mm-hmm.
seeing people who were sick, sometimes dying, kids who are in difficult situations. I've learned a lot now about how to have boundaries in my own emotional, like to care, but not have it be depleting. So that was a
Right.
lesson in itself. But I wasn't so good at that in the early days. But
It's hard.
it's hard. It's
And
really
especially when
hard.
you don't know like how much it's going to impact you, and how much of it seeps into you 24/7. Music is really like 24/7. You're on all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be draining if you don't set the right boundaries.
Yeah, and I think with some of the situations I was in, like compassion fatigue was something I wasn't
Mhm.
equipped to deal with. But yeah, I started to realize I was burnt out, and then I I just felt stuck with what I was able
Mhm.
to do and how I was able to do it. And there was this turning point where, we're in the pandemic. My husband is finishing his last year of residency. Um,
Mhm.
and he came in, and my mental health and physical health were starting to get a little wonky. We were in our 1 bedroom quarantine Chicago apartment, and Lori
Uh-huh.
Lightfoot shut down the all the outside area
Oh my
too.
gosh.
It was rough for everybody, but this was
Yeah.
something bigger than just the pandemic. And
Right.
he was like, I think we need to do something about this. And I was like, you're right. So I decided to get help. Um,
Mhm.
and I talked to the therapist, and I was like, I'm thinking about leaving my job. Like, I need a change, but I don't know what. I don't know how to make this decision. It just feels so heavy. And she's like, well, you've already decided. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're
Ooh.
right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's time. Like, I need to do this.
Yeah. I think I had made up my mind, but I was just scared to like take that step and actually do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
It's
was
scary.
really hard. Yeah, exactly. It's the unknown. It's like, is this gonna work out? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
But
So once you made, like, you accepted the decision, how did you
mhm.
feel?
I I was nervous and excited, but I felt like light. I felt like a
Mm,
huge weight was lifted off of me, and I don't know what it was. I just knew that it would work out
yeah.
in my gut. Um, so I just felt so much happier instantly, and I think it was definitely the right decision.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really knew that at the time, but just I felt different.
Yeah.
How did you feel? Well, I guess it was yours was more phased, but did you feel any differently?
But this was the, like, I'm closing the door, I'm leaving the performing arts. So this was,
Mm,
like, the big, big one in a lot of ways.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
and I cared so much about my students that I was really nervous about them feeling like it was anything they did, or that I was abandoning them,
Mhm.
because I was leaving like February 2021, so it was in like the middle of the spring semester. I wasn't teaching a class. I had finished my class from the fall semester, but
Okay.
still, I was scared that it would hurt them and damage the relationships that mattered so much to me.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think I was grieving some of that. I felt sad knowing that things were going to change. And then I also felt relief, though. I knew it was the right decision. I didn't know what was next, but I'm
Mhm.
a proactive griever. So before things actually take effect, I'm going to process it. It's my way of
Yeah.
controlling things, I guess, in some sense, but it's a good way to process emotionally.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to do what's best for yourself, and you just
Yeah.
have to be selfish in some situations, and
Yes, and I think that, but I think it was also, if I am talking to these students about finding a career and a life that is fulfilling to them, I have to model that. And
right.
it got to a point where it's like, this isn't right for me. It's not right. It's not going to be right for them. Someone else can come in and do this work, and
Mhm.
it's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I wonder if should probably wrap up soon. We're getting
Yeah.
towards the end of our time. I wonder if
Mhm.
there's, looking back, we've talked about all these different things with our journey, although there's always so much more you can share. Is there anything you wish you had done differently?
Yes. Actually, 2 things. Networking, they're kind of related. Networking and confidence.
Hmm.
I think networking, I wish I had known how to approach people and how to make that first introduction without necessarily knowing them.
Hmm.
And that's something I got really good at when I switched to tech. And that's one mistake I'd made in music that I applied to tech that I think was very successful. And I guess we can dive into that for another episode. That could be a deep dive for sure.
Yeah.
but also confidence. One of the biggest pieces of his advice I got actually from a lot of people was you need to kind of pay your dues before you get the big gigs.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of deterred me from reaching out to people that I should have reached out to.
Is it like you
And
didn't think you were worthy of reaching out or something? Or is it?
yeah, it's not that, because I knew I had the skill, I had the training, I just didn't have the confidence in myself to feel like, oh, I can do this. I should just ignore everyone. Here's what I want to do. Here's the goal. Here's what I want to achieve. How am I going to get there? Who do I need to contact to do that? Who do I need to play for? There was something holding me back. And I think that advice kind of put me there.
Yeah.
And I think I started really figuring that out right before the pandemic, unfortunately.
See, we're still processing all of this. It's like, because it wasn't that long ago either.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't.
No.
But it definitely taught me a lot, and I've been able to learn from it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important part. And yeah, how about you? Is there anything?
No, it's interesting hearing what you had to say. I think for me, I'm really grateful at the path my career took. I don't think I'd actually change any of the moves. I'm really happy with all the different experiences I had, getting to start organizations and experience leadership. Like, I'm really happy with all the things that I did. What I think I would change is the mindset. In kind of how I experienced those experiences, because I felt so much pressure to just do the best I could that it was actually deconstructive, and it led to anxiety that got in my way. And I know I could have performed more freely, experienced it, more with more love for the music and the experience, instead of like so focused on the execution and then festering on the few things that didn't go right. And I think sharing notes allowed me to lean more into what that experience was doing for others and get out of my head, because it was like, hey, it's not about you playing 100% of the notes in tune. It's about how you're meeting that person where they are and serving them. That helped so much. But I was really hard on myself, and I think it was debilitating in a lot of ways.
Well, it's part of what we do as musicians. We're so self-critical. We're always, focusing on the negative.
But there's a way to be objective about it.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember I had a chamber music coach who was like, be fascinated, problem solve, where it's much more of, it's not as emotional of a response. And I wish I had been able to adopt that in a lot of different ways of my kind of working, both administrative leadership and performance and teaching, because I think I would have enjoyed things a lot more. There was a quote that one of the theater, so my department at the university supported both music and theater students, and the theater students had this like welcome back forum where they had one person for each class give kind of their own speech. And one of the students, they said this quote, which I continue to think about, but you have nothing to prove and so much to share. And I thought it was beautiful, because it's just, we have these gifts and we can share them. And if we share them with love, and that doesn't mean you're not focused on execution and excellence, but it means your mindset is not self-focused.
Right, exactly. And, before I switched into tech, I would never share any music. I would never share myself playing or anything, because I was like, this isn't good enough. People are going to criticize me. But I started sharing music in tech, and people loved it. And I realized it's not about being perfect. It's just about making someone's day, or, enjoying it and sharing that.
Yeah.
Like you said. So now I do it, even though I know, there are a million things I could be doing better, but I do it because people enjoy it. And because I enjoy it. And exactly.
I mean, there are so many other things, I think that kind of mindset, but then also just leadership skills, collaboration, delegation. There's a lot of things I'm like, oh, that would have been really useful when I was doing this. Team
Yeah.
management, team like support. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But, I was 23 when I started a nonprofit. So there it is.
Wow. That's that's amazing.
I didn't know a
Yeah.
lot, but I figured it out.
We'll have to talk about that more for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered a lot today. So.
Yeah, we have. Okay, so we've looked back and we're gonna
Mhm.
then kind of talk more about the nitty-gritty of like, okay, so we made the decision to make a shift. What did those next steps look like? What worked for us? What maybe we would do differently with that too, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
as I'm thinking about it, so that's what we'll get into next. And I think, Emily, we know a lot of people who are probably tuning in maybe had similar shifts or similar experiences with different industry shifts and changes. And we want to know, where did you start and where are you now? So we'd love to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we will keep you updated on part 2 coming soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
My Career Journey is produced by Emily Banzhaf and Allegra Montanari. If you enjoy our content, follow us wherever you get your podcasts and find us on YouTube and Instagram at My Career Journey Pod. Thanks for listening.